Hello, my friends. A good Erev Shabbos, happy Friday, followed by a beautiful, uplifting, and inspiring Shabbos Kodesh. Before I begin, I'd like to dedicate today's class to a young man who's only 19 years old, who is in the hospital under an induced coma after having a stroke. His name is Gabriel Yoshua ben Nechama Chana. That all the Torah learning that is brought about through this lesson should stand in his merit and bring him a complete recovery. If, by the way, anyone is interested in having someone's name dedicated for any form of salvation or any form of recovery and want it dedicated to this class, or have this class stand in his stead or her stead, please call me at the number you'll see flash across the screen. The study of Torah is a tremendous protection and strength of our people, and it brings tremendous salvation to people in trouble, people who are sick, and even people who have passed away. So it's a wonderful opportunity to dedicate learning Torah and teaching of Torah to anyone who needs. Now, today's Torah reading. Later in today's Torah reading, or not today's, tomorrow's, it's called Parshas Pinchas. But there's a story about three amazing women. They're called Benos Tzlafchad, the daughters of Tzlafchad. Their father had passed away 40 years earlier and did not leave over any sons. It's towards the end of the 40 years that the Jewish people are wandering in the desert and they're about to enter the land of Israel. And Moses is sitting down with the elders and discussing about how the land is going to be divided among each of the tribes, and then how each of the tribes is going to divide the land among families. Now, these women, the Torah says, were brilliant. They waited to bring their case before Moshe until the subject was at hand. Their father had died 40 years earlier. And now the subject came up, how are we dividing the land? And now they go into where the elders are talking with Moshe, and they present their case. They waited all this time till the proper moment. And they say, our father died, and he didn't leave over any sons. So we need to inherit his land. He can't give it over to any boys. There aren't any. And we don't want our father's name to be wiped out, to be forgotten. We want him to attain his portion through us. Moshe was at a loss. He didn't know what to do. Why was he at a loss? The Torah was already taught 40 years ago, or close to 40 years ago. Everything was taught, all the laws were taught, and Moshe did not know what to do. He learned from the greatest teacher of all time, God himself, but he didn't know what to do. And we're told that this law was not yet taught. Why not? Because God knew that these women were going to come forward and they were going to ask their question, and he wanted the merit of this law to be given to them. So Moshe did something that no one was ever able to do before him, and no one will ever be able to do after him. He basically said, wait a minute, and I'll ask my teacher, God. And God said to him, they're right. If there's no sons to inherit, it goes to the daughters. And it was through these three righteous, brilliant women that this law was taught to the Jewish people for all time. The Medrash, one of the books of the Oral Torah, then goes into a long discussion about the women of the generation that roamed the desert, how they saved us, and they were the ones to rebuild where the men breached. Interesting to note, how often have I heard from people, oh, you Jews and Torah, and you religious Jews, you have no respect for women. You look down at women. Oh, no. It's the exact opposite. The Torah puts women on a pedestal. It's the women of the Jewish people that have kept our people dedicated and alive. The Torah gives examples. The Talmud gives examples right at this point and says, well, the Benos Slavchad, the daughters of Slavchad, they showed their desire to, one, go into Israel and receive their portion, and two, to rebuild the name of their father. And it was only 40 years before, 38 years before, that the Jewish people the men did not want to go in. They sent in the spies who spoke badly and destroyed their chances of that generation to go into Israel. And then it's the women who came forward and said, we want to go. The daughters of Slavchad were only one example. We're told that the women did not agree with their husbands and wanted to go into Israel. Not only that, when the golden calf was built, the men wanted to take the earrings off of their wives' ears and use it to melt down the gold to build the calf. And the women wouldn't give in because they wanted no part of this sacrilege. And the men took their own gold and they threw that in. It doesn't mention this one, but there's so many other places. There's another one where the rebellion that was started by Korach. There was another person who was at the beginning of the rebellion, the meeting that took place. His name was On ben Peles, On the son of Peles. And when they had their meeting and they wanted to rebel, he was there. But later, when the rebellion started, he was not there. His name isn't mentioned, and he wasn't killed together with Korach and 250 other people. Where was he? When he came home from the meeting, the Talmud tells us, his wife tried to convince him out of it, saying, if Korach wins, you're under Korach. If Moshe wins, you're under Moshe. No matter which way, your status doesn't change, so why are you getting involved in this? Her real reason was she felt she was trying to explain to him, there's no reason to argue. Moshe's the leader, and that's the way it should be. She then fed him lunch and gave him a lot of wine to drink, and he fell asleep. And she sat at the door of her tent, and she uncovered her hair. And a Jewish man is not supposed to look at a woman whose hair is uncovered. And the man, Korach and his people, came to bring On to the rebellion, to start off, to complain against Moshe. And there was a woman not dressed appropriately at the doorway, so they turned around and they left. This smart woman saved her husband's life and that of her own family. And this goes on through the generations. The Talmud calls a woman the Okeres Habayis, the backbone of the home. Why are women not subjected to the same commandments that men are? Why do women don't have to keep a lot of the commandments? They don't put on tefillin, they don't wear a tallis, Not because they're less of us, because they're supposed to be involved in something that is so much greater. They are developing the next generation. They are developing the next generation of dedicated Jews. I know in my own home, my children said Kriya Shema, said Shema before they went to sleep and all the prayers that go with it. And my wife taught them, sang with them before they would go to sleep. And they know the tunes that my wife taught them. Not me. I was either preparing to teach or teaching. I wasn't there many of the times it was time to go to sleep. And when I was there, I would sing the songs that I thought, the tunes that I thought they knew. And they would always say to me, "That's not the way Mommy does it." And I'd shrug my shoulders and I'd tell them, "Why don't you teach me the way Mommy does it?" And it happened again. I'm babysitting my grandchildren. And it's time for my grandchildren to go to sleep. And I go into them and I sing this, I say Shema with them, I sing the songs that I thought they would know. And they say, "Zadie, that's not the way Mommy does it." And I think back, and my heart fills with pride. Pride of my wife, pride of my daughter, and pride of my family. And what gives me that pride? The Okeres Abayis, the backbone of the Jewish home. Our wives, our daughters. That's what keeps Klal Yisrael, the Jewish people, strong. And that's what keeps the Jewish people dedicated to Torah. Chance.